This is the SBA Update, exclusively on ASBN.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. You're watching another edition of the SBA Update, exclusively right here at ASBN.com. Hurricane season is here, so if you haven't already, now is the time to prepare your business for the potential impacts of severe weather. Joining us now is Francisco Sánchez Jr., the Associate Administrator for the SBA's Office of Disaster Recovery and Resilience. Welcome to the show, Francisco. So glad you could take the time out of your schedule to join us.
Thank you, Jim, for having us. It's an important topic, so thanks for the invitation.
That it is, for sure, especially what we see in the way of weather in the last couple of weeks. It's just crazy out there. So what is the SBA's Office of Disaster Assistance, and why should entrepreneurs and small business owners be aware of it?
Sure. I think many folks in the audience probably know SBA is what we call 3 C's entities: capital, counseling, contracting, and us, disaster. And so we help to while we're doing all of these things to promote economic prosperity, our job is to help those businesses recover and be more resilient once they encounter a disaster. For example, right now, we are on the field in 30 different disasters right now across this country.
Wow.
And so a normal part of business, SBA is on the ground. We deploy teams to work with our district offices, our regional administrators, to make sure that when we're rolling out disaster programs, that we're leading from the ground up and meeting local priorities. And what's important to know, and what people tend to not know, is that we're not just here to help small business. About 80% of our lending goes to homeowners and renters, and only about 20% goes to businesses.
Wow.
So you're eligible if you're a homeowner, a renter, a private nonprofit, or a business of any size.
Wow.
And so why do we do that?
Yeah.
Obviously, people in the community are your customers. They're your employees. And so that's our holistic approach to helping communities recover. And now, as we see more disasters, also helping them be more resilient and how to mitigate for the next storm that they'll face.
Wow, that is something. I never knew that, and I thought I knew a lot about the SBA, but that's fantastic that you guys go that extra step. How does the SBA, because you're talking a lot about disaster, so everybody thinks about FEMA, but how does the SBA differ from FEMA after a natural disaster?
Well, one, our partnership with FEMA is stronger than it's ever been in making sure that we help communities recover. But there are some differences. Since 2000, there have only been 3 years where there have been more presidentially declared disasters out of FEMA than there have been SBA agency declared disasters. SBA has its own declaration authority. And so often states and cities do more business with SBA than do with any other federal agency. And the difference is the amount of support to disaster survivors, but also what we're here to cover. FEMA has these grants that you don't have to pay back. That typical grant is about $5,000. SBA comes here to help you with your uninsured or underinsured losses. So that is if you are not insured, that $5,000 is probably going to, it helps, and it's a great resource, but it probably is not going to get you to where you need to be.
Right.
If you are underinsured, we help you fill that gap through a few things: low interest, long-term loans. And I know the last thing people want to think about after they've been impacted by a disaster is a loan. You've already taken an economic hit. You've got to figure out how to pay for it. But when you look at what we mean by low interest, long-term loans, that's the value that we add in the federal family to local communities. So right now, be clear that our interest rates change quarterly. But right now for homeowners and renters, it's 2.68% over 30 years.
Wow.
For a business, as low as 4% over 30 years. And so we are looking to get the capital that you need to recover and recover quickly. SBA is who owns that role to help you get the capital you need to start recovering.
Fantastic. Wow, those rates are incredibly low, and those terms are unbelievable. How are the SBA regional offices, district offices involved in the case of a disaster?
They are the backbone of our recovery process. And so obviously the function of disaster recovery and resilience belongs here in what we call ODR&R, recovery and resilience. But these are local impacted communities. All disasters are local, and we need to make sure we're leading from the ground up. And so we rely very heavily on our regional administrators, our district offices, so that when we send in the cavalry of blue shirts and with SBA logos to help communities recover, they really help us guide, like, hey, these are the neighborhoods you need to target. Based on the relationships they have, we know, hey, this community might need more help, or here's the particular part of the economic piece that you might be missing, so that we're right-sizing our response, that we're meeting local priorities. And, like I said, we're 30 disasters right now across the country. Many of these communities we've been to multiple times, but it's really that local and regional perspective that helps us amplify the success because they know those communities better than we do.
Sure, sure. Can you tell us a little bit about the hurricane season? I know you're not maybe a weatherman, but the forecasters have painted a pretty active picture. What are you preparing for?
We're preparing for a rough season. You know, Jim, I've had the opportunity to be on command staff for 4 of our nation's 10 most costly natural disasters, and I have never seen a hurricane forecast this dire.
Wow.
This is probably the most severe forecast the National Hurricane Center has ever issued.
Oh my gosh.
And
Wow.
so it's a flag that we ought to be paying attention. But I've also grew up in a Gulf Coast community, and let me tell you, it just takes one storm.
I know.
It doesn't matter
Yep.
if 30 form, if 15 form.
Right.
It's that one storm
That's
that
right.
strikes your community
Yeah.
that's going to make you remember this particular hurricane season. And so it should be alarmed by the forecast. But no matter our programs and how we come help you prepare and recover, the single most important thing to help you make sure that you can prepare for, respond to, and recover from a disaster is what you do as an individual, as a business owner. And so I would leave that as the reminder as we enter hurricane season to really focus on that.
That's right. That's right. We saw that terrible storm go through Southwest Florida and Fort Myers area and such. And I mean, it just completely obliterates the entire city. It's just unbelievable. And God forbid, if you're anywhere near the water, all of those small businesses were just wiped out. I mean, we see it on the news, and if you don't live in that area, obviously, but then you don't see too many follow-up stories. But that's where you guys kick in, right? As soon as that storm goes through, you guys are boots on the ground helping those people in a very big way, whether it be their rents or their businesses. It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, and I will tell the business owners, I hope you don't get impacted by disaster, but there's a few things you should keep in mind about SBA programs. Obviously, we saw a lot of physical damage in the Fort Myers area, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where we can help you recover and rebuild from the physical damage.
Mm-hmm.
But often what you'll see now in some situations, like you see it in the bridge collapse that we are responding to in the Baltimore area. No physical damage, but we can also come in and help with economic injury disaster lending. That is, if you are in Fort Myers and relying on tourism, but you're not impacted, but people aren't coming. If you are in Baltimore and people aren't crossing the bridge to your restaurant anymore, that's one of the things that I would urge people to learn more about SBA. We can help with economic injury. And so if you are seeing reduced revenues, we can help you come in to help you stay afloat until things get better, to help pay for and cover your general operating expenses like payroll and rent.
That's huge.
To make sure that you are well positioned to survive. And it's incredible.
That is huge to a small business owner for sure. And hopefully we can help you get the word out on that, because I think there's a lot of people out there that don't look to the SBA for that. They know that it's got a lot of resources, obviously, and it's certainly a great way to start a business or to find funding through the SBA loan programs that are out there. But when it comes to something like this, I don't think they think right away SBA. Maybe they think FEMA or some of the other agencies. But what's the most important advice you would like to leave with our audience, here today?
Two things. I think people, to your point, should learn a little bit more about SBA. And that's, we are currently going the greatest transformation of SBA's disaster enterprise in the agency's 70-year history. One of the things we've instituted, because capital is important to help you recover, in a historic move, SBA Associate Administrator Guzman signed an order that now, if you get a disaster loan, whether you're a homeowner or a renter, a business or a nonprofit, you don't have to make a payment for 12 months. And 0% interest accrues, and that lets you focus on the most important thing in your own personal recovery. And the second thing that I would remind people of is just really the importance of preparedness and understanding that disasters are more frequent and they're more catastrophic. In this role, I have seen dozens of disasters sometimes in a month.
Sure.
And it's just across this country, the Midwest, right, along the Gulf Coast, in Texas, where I'm from, in the Northeast, and in California. Last year, we had a hurricane land in a desert in California, and a wildfire in the Pacific Island, right, in Maui. And so I'll let that speak for itself. So I would just focus, we're doing everything we can to help communities recover, rebuild, and be more resilient. But again, I'll close with a reminder, the most important thing to help you recover from a disaster is what you do as a small business owner and as an individual to make sure that you're prepared.
That's right. That's right. SBA is there to help in more ways than one, that's for sure. Francisco Sánchez Jr., Associate Administrator for the SBA's Office of Disaster Recovery and Resilience. Thank you so much for joining us. I know that our viewers are going to get a lot out of your visit with us here today. Very informative. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching the SBA Update, exclusively on ASBN.